Salam Malaysia Madani, this is Biz Asean with me, Daryl Baptist. Every Thursday, we bring you Biz Asean, a segment where we unpack key issues shaping the regional economy in conjunction with Malaysia's ASEAN chairmanship this year. Today, our future is no longer just about growth. It's also about how we can grow greener. From the air we breathe to the energy we consume to the jobs we create, sustainability is no longer a side note. It's center stage. Across ASEAN, nations are racing to balance development with responsibility. Governments are setting net zero targets, industries are rethinking how they produce, and communities are finding new ways to live in harmony with nature. And it's not just about saving the planet, it's about building fairer, healthier, more resilient societies. This is the story of how ASEAN is shaping its green future. All this and more coming right up on Biz Asean. Our focus today, ASEAN Green Future, building a sustainable path for growth and humanity. We'll be speaking with a special guest to explore this topic further. But first, let's begin with some of the latest news updates. Today we begin with Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim today emphasised that ongoing parliamentary reforms in Malaysia are vital to strengthening democratic accountability and ensuring a system of governance that truly reflects the aspirations of the people. Datuk Seri Anwar highlighted several key initiatives, including the enactment of the Parliamentary Services Act 2025, the establishment of parliamentary select committees, and the introduction of the Prime Minister's question time as significant milestones that marked a shift towards greater transparency and accountability in the country's parliamentary process. The Prime Minister noted that with strong support from both the Dewan Rakyat and Dewan Negara speakers, Malaysia had successfully advanced one of its boldest institutional reforms through the Parliamentary Services Act. Datuk Seri Anwar made the remarks when officiating the 46th General Assembly of the ASEAN Inter-Parliamentary Assembly, or IPA, at the World Trade Center in Kuala Lumpur today. Our next story, the Prime Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry, the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry will commence the first round of Free Trade Agreement or FTA negotiations with the Gulf Cooperation Council, also known as GCC countries, in December. The Ministry's Secretary General, Dato' Hairil Yahri Yaakob, said the time is now ripe for Malaysia to expand its trade with GCC countries.
In one of the GCC countries, maybe Saudi. At the moment, we have concluded SEPA negotiations with UAE, and inshallah, it will enter into force soon, once both countries have completed the domestic procedures, very, very soon.
Earlier, Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz reiterated Malaysia's strong commitment to its Arab partners and is looking forward to strengthening ties beyond trade and investment. Moving on to Market Watch. Most ASEAN stock markets opened mixed today. The FBM KLCI Malaysian market open slightly lower. For the ASEAN stock market analysis, let's turn to Muhammad Shakil Haziq Muhammad Zubil, a remiser from the Malaysian Bumiputra Remiser Association, also known as Pre-Bumi.
As we can see, most Asian markets open mixed today. The FBMKCI Malaysian market opened slightly lower at 1606.86, down 4.84 points or 0.3%. The GCI Indonesia opened slightly higher at 8031, up 6 points or 0.06%. The SCI Singapore opened slightly higher at 4325, up 1 point or 0.02%. The Philippines opened slightly higher at 6224, up 13 points or 0.21%. And the Vietnam opened slightly higher at 1674, up 3 points or 0.15%. As we can see, global markets turned choppy after the US Federal Reserve cut interest rates by 25 basis points. It first moved this year, while investors had hoped for a faster pace. But as we can see, Fed Chair Jerome Powell signaled a more cautious approach. Across Asia, we can see the reaction was mixed. We can see the MSCI Asia Pacific Index outside Japan, and Japan slipped around 0.1%, with Australia and New Zealand, we can say, leading the losses. But there was strength in North Asia. We can see in South Korea jumped 0.8%, and Taiwan rose 0.4%, and Japan Nikkei gained 1%. Currency market, we can see, also fluctuated. We can see the US dollar fell to its lowest since 2022 before rebounding, while the euro, yuan, and we can see sterling traded steady to weaker. For Asian, the key takeaway is clear, as softer dollar and a lower US yield could attract equity inflows into Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. Export-driven sector like electronics, we can see, and commodities may have benefits, though the global volatility in tech and oil remains a near-term risk.
Thank you for those updates, Shakil. Coming up next, a closer look at our ASEAN Brief segment. We're diving into ASEAN Green Future. Our guest will be joining us in the studio shortly to share his expert insights on this important topic. Stay with us.
ASEAN Glossary. ASEAN Glossary.
Welcome back to Biz ASEAN, folks. In our ASEAN Brief segment today, we're taking a closer look at a future that affects all of us. How the region is working towards a greener, more sustainable tomorrow. With me is Professor ZAINAL ABIDIN SANUSI, Director of the Sejahtera Center for Sustainability and Humanity at International Islamic University, Malaysia. Professor ZAINAL, it is great to have you here with us on the show today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Now, let's begin our chat, Professor, today with painting a bigger picture or an easier picture for our audience, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about ASEAN Green Future, what exactly does that mean in terms of everyday terms? Is it cleaner air, greener jobs, new technology? How should people be perceiving this?
Oh, all right. You mentioned them all there. I think it's cleaner air, it's healthier. But within the context of business perspective, I think more important is that how we see the greener context of these initiatives making economics more impactful or more attractive. Of course, we talk about healthier air and also the greeneries to be around. But I would like to highlight that something that is important here is that I was in Osaka Expo, and so if you were talking about how to see the illustrations of greener Asian, would be like when you enter the pavilion, you are shown on the scene or the smart city.
Right.
So what's within that smart city, what's being shown in that smart city is the greener, of course, yeah. But what is more important is that providing more competitive, cleaner technology behind the greener scenarios. first. Second one is that it's also coming in with what we call greener jobs. Green jobs, and which is very important aspect.
What's an example of a green job?
Green jobs will be, we are dealing so much with now with EV, so the engineers behind electric vehicles, and also like we are talking about carbon capturing. So we're talking about audit of carbon capture. So there are so many new things that is behind that, which is, I think, is quite new for our young generation, that we need this kind of exposure and awareness for them to be aware of.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right there. And we will be talking a bit more about the younger generation further on in our interview. But let's bring our focus back towards ASEAN again. We're such a diverse region, right, in this part of the world, from big cities to rural villages. What makes the idea of a green future unique or challenging, some might say, for us in this region compared to others?
It's unique because I think everyone's in the world is talking about sustainability, is talking about greening. And we know that ASEAN is very diverse, like you said. But we need to be together in this. As a region, we need to work together. So it's unique in a way, how do we bring these 10 member countries together with all the diversities? So it's really interesting to see how our chairmanships is putting up inclusivity and sustainability as the agenda, as the theme, so that this is how we address the challenge. What is the challenge in real? The challenge in real is that we know that Singapore is a service-based economy. And we also know that for Indonesia is still very heavily reliant on coal as their source of natural resources. And also Laos is very good at hydropower. So these three different countries is presenting a different demography, different economic background.
Right.
So how do we bring them together? So there's the kind of like uniqueness, and at the same time the challenge are there. So you see from the screen just now that we've got so many initiatives, ASEAN Green Initiative. So this is what the kind of project that will bring us together. And one of it is ASEAN Power Grid. Maybe you can talk more about that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I love that. We're such a beautiful region here. And like you said, if we would be able to work together and combine all our efforts and resources, I really think we could achieve some amazing stuff. Speaking about amazing stuff, governments across ASEAN have pledged net zero targets. And in Malaysia's context, under its 13th Malaysia Plan, what are the most realistic steps in the next 5 years, do you reckon, that could get us closer to that greener future?
There's so many things from that. But if we were to go in a bit simpler illustration, what can be done is the aspect of renewable energy. So there is one, and also I think we need to be able to see that there are expanding more of solar panel usage applications in household, not just industry. Industry has been using that quite a number of years already.
Right.
More emphasis to be supported by the 13th Malaysian Plan is that the SMEs, small medium industry, and what is more important also as well is that the household that need this, because I think this solar energy, the solar panel is something that brings us a greener ASEAN or greener country. The second part is mobility, and of course we see more of our EMAs around now.
Right.
And we see more of like, there is statistics saying that before up now that we've got like 4,100 the charger, but we are going for like 10,000. So that's the kind of like support system that needs to be there. And of course, the other components is that all this needs financial support. And not the conventional one, it is there, but the green financial support need to be there as well. The green bonds, the green sukuk, these are the kind of thing that is coming up in the 13th Malaysian Plan as part of the initiative that need to be mainstream. And of course, the other one that I guess, which is closer to the community and closer to the SME, for example, is the circular economy. This is the kind of practice that all used to be waste, or what would be the waste, is then being recycled. And this is something that has been practiced in Japan, in all the European countries, but we need to make more practice of this in our community.
Right. Because, I mean, when you speak about recycling, you know, it's been around since I was a child, but I guess you're right in the sense that we probably need to put a bit more emphasis on it to make sure that we all get on board as well. I just want to go back to something you said earlier about how you mentioned that the different ASEAN countries have different resources. Do you see ASEAN countries working together on sustainability, or are we still moving in separate lanes?
Some would say is moving separate lane because of their socio-economic background, which is quite understandable because they need economics gain first on the table before they can talk about environment. But as I was saying just now, we need to work together. And it's very interesting to see how during our chairmanships, and it's getting more intensive now, that we need to bring the diversity to something that is a platform that we can bring together. Because the fragmentation's perspective among ASEAN countries is not good for economic perspective. We need to provide a platform whereby we are seen as together. For example, when I was saying the ASEAN power grid just now, this is something that Laos, Thai, Singapore and Malaysia is working together. We need to somehow have a common grid usage and working together. And this project has to be seen as a uniting project.
Right.
Because ASEAN is not just about politics and security. ASEAN is about this one. So when we talk about greener future of ASEAN, this is that kind of project that is very critical that need to be supported by ASEAN as a region. Otherwise, other region would see us not attractive enough because that ideas of the diversity in ASEAN is quite widespread, is quite known for that. But I'm sure, but now, slowly, that impressions of fragmentations among ASEAN member countries is being seen as getting more united now.
Yes.
Through all this project. And we, as the chairman, I think we are doing well on this. We need to endorse this and need to recognize this.
I completely agree with you. I think Malaysia is doing a great job so far at our chairmanship, particularly in this region as well, in the green region. Now, you mentioned earlier as well, before ASEAN countries can sort of come together to work on this, oftentimes they would also need to take care of their own people first. This mentality also transcends into businesses. Now, when it comes to going green, it's not just about the government's efforts, it's also about private businesses doing their part too. However, based on that example that we just used, a lot of businesses also think they need to take care of themselves first. And they look at green initiatives as something that's costly, time-consuming. Is sustainability can they use sustainability in a way that can actually benefit them financially?
That is something that is happening quite intensively now, and I think this is something that needs to be corrected, and I think it's ongoing now. I'm sure you're fully aware of this ESG, the environment, social and governance. I think these are the things that has to be adhered. This is the company's practice now. And why are they being imposed to do this? Because this is to add the competitiveness. If you need to be in Bursa, you need to have this report, sustainability report to be there. So it's not just about a cost. Of course, it's a cost. But when you talk about long term, when you say just now about sustainability in the future, we need to hold this as our practice because part of the investment now is putting this as a requirement. How green you are, how ESG you are, how sustainable you are. So in short term, yes, maybe people see it as a cost, but in the long term, it will definitely be a criteria whether you want a future investment or not. This is a compulsory thing now. It's no longer an option, like you said just now. It's not an option anymore. It's a must. It's a compulsory thing. If you want to remain competitive or you want to be more competitive, you need to uphold all this practice.
Right. Now, that's cool because, when we look at industries in ASEAN, a lot of them sometimes, like ESG, it seems to be like, it's like a cool thing now. Companies want to be seen doing it. And I really hope it's not just a phase and that companies stick to it. But which industries in ASEAN would you say have the biggest opportunity to lead in the green economy? And which ones need the hardest push to change, do you reckon?
Of course, you see so many EVs coming up now. So I guess EVs, electric vehicles industries that are coming up, and whatever reluctant supply chain that comes together with that will be the industry that is coming up. And if we talk about EV, then we need to talk about the batteries. We need to talk about the nickel. And this is where Indonesia is doing well in this. They've got that advantages on that. And the other thing is that the factors of how the solar energy is really booming now. I mean, I was in Singapore as well. I mean, I was asking one of my students, who just a student, but he changed his house to solar panel. So he managed to reduce a lot of my bill, electricity bill. So you will see that at the industry level, engineering, etc., towards these greening technologies and industries, but at the community level, at the SME level, these are the demands there. So you will see that quite clearly is the EV, is the solar, is the circular economy coming up. It's the recycling that you are saying just now.
Yep.
So these are the things that need to be further hyped so that the community, the people are aware of this.
Yes.
Because we are quite allergic or a bit sensitive when we talk about renewable energy, but it's not actually. It's just a common thing that we can see around.
Right. Now, we're going to be speaking a lot more about this, Professor ZAINAL, but we're going to be taking a short break. We'll continue right after this, guys. Stick around. We'll be right back shortly after this.
Apakah arti merdeka? Merdeka itu bukan sekadar laungan, tetapi cahaya yang membebaskan jiwa.
Welcome back to Biz ASEAN, folks. We're here with Professor ZAINAL talking about ASEAN's green future. Professor ZAINAL, there's great insights that you've been sharing with us. Let's continue on. Now, when we talk about green talk, sometimes people feel it is only for policymakers or big corporations. What role can the average citizen play in building a greener future for Malaysia? I know we spoke a bit more about recycling and initiatives like buying EV cars, but from a day-to-day perspective, what actions can citizens take to ensure we reach our green goals?
Yeah, I think I would like to reinstate the practice of recycling, because I think we are doing well in a way that we were like 35% of doing recycling before, and last year it is like 38%, and we are targeting 40% after this. So if we continue to do this, it will definitely contribute to a greener future, and of course for Malaysia. And if you talk about energy saving, this is a common practice that we're doing. Air condition, for example, if you just reduce it by 1 Celsius, that make a 10% cut of the electricity bill.
Wow.
So if 10% of the populations are doing that, we'll be able to somehow provide power for 100,000 households. So it's just 1%. So imagine now, just to illustrate further, because this is interesting and very clear cut. We used to go to our house and switch on the air conditioner to 16 to the lowest one. If we put even, this is something that we really think that
you don't really realize this. These are everyday actions that we do. We don't realize it.
Yeah. So if you do that kind of just 1 Celsius, and this is what Singapore is doing, and it managed to cut a lot. And even another example is that it might be a bit common in a way that sometimes in a place whereby is an open air. For Japan, for example, they started the cool breeze before. What is a cool breeze? Cool breeze means it's the summertime. You don't need to wear a coat, for example.
Right.
I mean, of course, in our situation, this is this kind of condition, but sometimes it's quite interesting to see that living in a hot country, we put on that, so we definitely need an aircon for that.
Yes.
So that is a very common practice. So these are the kind of, it's just a small change of behavior that make a difference. So there are many other practices like cycling, for example. There's another one. So do we really need to use a motorbike or even car to go to surah, in our case, for the Muslim case? We can just walk and get extra pahala for that. But these are and even another example that I used to give to our students, for example, when we take ablutions, we put on the tap to the strongest current. Well, you just need a small portion of it.
Yeah. Especially when you're brushing your teeth and stuff like that.
And we take bath, I think, Sarah, there are some statistics, some interesting stories saying that when you take shower, it is the whole... there's a lot of water being used.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we just need a small portion of that.
No, I completely agree with you. One of these interesting insights that I saw in Singapore that they're doing was they had their toilet where when you flush, you know, when the tank gets refilled, there was a pipe that you could actually wash your hands. It was built into the tank. So that same water that you can wash your hands is filling the tank for your next flush. And I thought that was a brilliant idea on how to save water as well.
It is.
And it's great for the younger generation. You spoke about the younger generation earlier. Let's focus on them. So with the Gen Z coming up and running now, students, fresh graduates, young entrepreneurs as well, what kind of green opportunities should they be preparing for?
They need to be aware that in ASEAN, if we focusing on this green technology and etc., there will be like almost 1 million new jobs, green jobs that is available.
Okay.
So they need to be prepared for that. So not just in terms of knowledge, but the skills that is more important because everyone, I mean, as a student, university student, we know about all the green technologies, etc. But whether the skills are there or not, and as you were talking just now, we were talking about just now that what areas of jobs that is considered as green jobs, now I think we are talking about sustainable aviation fuel. So I thought there is something interesting whereby students will learn about aeronautical engineering, for example. They didn't learn about this. So these are the kind of like new job scopes that need to be there. That's one example. And if you see other countries, like an example of how they're being exposed and being trained on this, green skills professions. So there is something that's been quite commonly practiced in Germany, for example. All Nordic countries, for example. These are very strong areas of jobs that our youth just started to be exposed, and we need to. TVET is a good example.
Yes.
So this is an area whereby we really need to be exposed from the very beginning. TVET is not just a skill that is seen as a secondary education before, but it's something that is very critical now.
And I think it also contributes to growing our economy as well, because not only are we looking at encouraging foreign investors, but we also need the human capital with the skills necessary. And who better than the younger generation? Professor ZAINAL, thank you so much for joining us here today and for sharing with us your expert insights. We've truly appreciated it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that wraps up today's discussion, folks. Here's a thought to carry with you. A sustainable future isn't only about cutting carbon or planting trees. It's about making sure prosperity and responsibility go hand in hand. The green future of ASEAN is not tomorrow's story. It begins with what we choose to do today. Be sure to join us again next Thursday as we continue to spotlight the people, policies and possibilities shaping ASEAN's journey ahead. My name is Gerald Baptist, Malaysia Madani, RAKYAT DISANTUNI. Thank you, and it's goodbye for now.